that Gabriel is not really in the mix to start at all, and he could get traded for a late draft pick. No arm strength, doesn't move out of the pocket, and so it's a bad combination for a shorter quarterback.
The quarterback picture in Cleveland just flipped upside down. Mary Kay Cabot, the most connected insider on this beat, now reports that Dillon Gabriel is completely out of the starting conversation, not battling, not even in the picture, and the front office would move him right now for a late-round pick. Sit with that for a second. 12 months ago, this was billed as an open fight. In July of 2026, Shadur Sanders runs that room, and Gabriel is trade bait. So how did we get here? Who picks up the phone, and what does it tell us about Shadur? Let's break it all down. First, let's be clear about where this comes from, because this is not some message board rumor. Mary Kay Cabot has covered the Browns longer and closer than anybody in that market. She has been the definitive voice on this franchise for decades. When she reports something, it usually means the building already knows it, and her wording here leaves zero wiggle room. Dillon Gabriel is not really in the mix to start at all. Say that back to yourself. Not in the mix at all. That is not the language of a guy narrowly losing a battle. That is the language of a guy who got erased from the whiteboard without anyone announcing it. Then comes the piece that upgrades this from a depth chart footnote into a genuine trade story. Cabot adds that Gabriel could be moved for a late draft pick. Cleveland is not asking for real value here. They are broadcasting that a single day 3 pick gets a conversation started. In front office language, that is basically a public listing. Teams do not get any closer to admitting a player is available without literally saying the words. Now hold that up against Shadur Sanders' situation. Shadur is inside the actual competition. He is the quarterback the staff is grading for the starting job. He is the one who grabbed that room last season and refused to hand it back. So when fans ask why Gabriel is the one being shopped, there is no mystery. Cleveland evaluated both quarterbacks side by side. Same facility, same playbook, same coaches watching the same practice film, and one of them pulled away. And do not forget the price tag on Gabriel. Cleveland spent a third-round pick on him. General managers hate walking away from third-rounders because dealing one a year in is a public admission that the evaluation whiffed. Andrew Berry is willing to eat that anyway, which tells you the verdict inside the building is final. The staff saw Gabriel next to Shadur long enough to know the distance was growing, not shrinking. And once a front office lands there, hanging on to the player just wastes a roster spot and creates a season of uncomfortable press conferences. So the report is legitimate, the intent is obvious, and the explanation is standing right there in the same quarterback room. Gabriel did not get squeezed out by bad luck. He got beaten head-to-head by Shadur Sanders. Now hear the report straight from the source.
Joey O'Donnell, and the first thing I started going to talk about is that Dillon Gabriel trade rumor. Mary Kay officially reports that Gabriel is not really in the mix to start at all, and he could get traded for a late draft pick. I've been saying this for a little while now. I'm glad that it's starting to get more national buzz. It's getting reported in the media here because I do think that's the most likely case for how this thing plays out with Dillon Gabriel. He is not in the mix to be the Browns starting quarterback. Okay, it's Shedeur, maybe Watson, and whoever else they bring in externally, right?
But wait a second. How does a third-round quarterback go from prized pick to completely out of the picture in 12 months? The film tells you exactly how. Because none of this was decided behind closed doors. It played out on Sundays in full view of the entire league, 1 week at a time. Rewind to Week 11 of last season against the Ravens. Gabriel had the start that afternoon. A concussion knocked him out at halftime, and Shadur Sanders trotted in ice cold against one of the nastiest defenses in the sport. And from that moment on, the job was never returned. Not the following week, not any week after. 7 straight starts to finish the season. If you remember one fact from this whole video, make it that one. The moment Gabriel went down, Cleveland got an extended audition of the other option, and the other option made going back unthinkable. Now, nobody is pretending Shedur's rookie stat sheet was clean. Roughly 1,400 passing yards, 7 scores, 10 interceptions. Standard rookie growing pains on a roster full of holes. But buried inside those 7 starts was one performance that rewired how the organization viewed him. Week 14 versus Tennessee. 364 yards through the air, 3 touchdown throws, and another score on the ground.
When a fifth-round rookie produces that behind that offensive line, the coaches learn something a box score can never show them. The ceiling is genuine. Gabriel's situation is the mirror image. His weaknesses are the permanent kind, not the fixable kind. The source video lays it out with no sugar, no arm strength, stays glued to the pocket, and for a quarterback without ideal height, that pairing is a death sentence. Undersized passers stick in this league one of two ways. They manufacture plays outside structure the way Kyler Murray does, or they compensate with elite velocity and lightning anticipation. Gabriel checks neither box at a pro level. That is not a rough patch. That is who he is. And months before any of this, ESPN's Jeremy Fowler had already dropped the tell, passing along a coach's evaluation that Gabriel profiles as a backup in this league for a long time. Sit with that phrasing, a backup for a long time. It is praise and a ceiling stapled together. The league's book on him is a career clipboard holder. Cleveland's book matches, and no team runs an honest competition between a potential franchise cornerstone and a career number 2. They close it, which is precisely what the Browns did. So Gabriel did not flunk some mysterious test. He lost a straight-up comparison. Shadur Sanders shared his building, ran his installs, threw to his receivers, and the tape split them apart. So quickly, there was never really a race. Here's the source explaining exactly why Cleveland is done.
For how this thing plays out with Dillon Gabriel, he is not in the mix to be the Browns starting quarterback. Okay, it's Shedeur, maybe Watson, and whoever else they bring in externally, right? And remember, you can go back. I literally said that verbatim. I reported this weeks ago. There's me, my rock and jean shirt at the time. Gabriel is out of the mix. I told you, we saw the sample size, just doesn't have the makings of a successful quarterback to start in this league, quite frankly. No arm strength, doesn't move out of the pocket, and so it's a bad combination for a shorter quarterback. I think the Browns are moving on.
Now, run it back to one man. The coach who originally fell for Gabriel no longer works in Cleveland. He works in Atlanta. And that single fact reshapes this entire trade market. Kevin Stefanski. The whole market boils down to that one name. Think about how Gabriel landed in Cleveland to begin with. Stefanski personally targeted him in the 3rd round. He loved the mountain of college production, loved how fast he processed, loved the scheme fit. Then Stefanski walked, Todd Monken took over, and overnight Gabriel became a leftover from a previous regime. That is the silent trap for mid-round quarterbacks. Their entire value is stored in one coach's belief. The coach exits, and the value walks out the door with him. But here is the twist that works in Cleveland's favor. That coach did not disappear. He is now running the Atlanta Falcons, which means the only man in the sport with real conviction about Dillon Gabriel controls another franchise's quarterback room and has every incentive to dial Andrew Berry's number. If a deal materializes anywhere, it materializes there. The source video reaches the same conclusion. If somebody makes this trade, why would it be anyone but Atlanta? Now, the source creator even mapped out the mechanics of a deal, and let's be honest about what it is. It is his proposal, not a report. His version works like this. Atlanta does not hold a 5th-round pick, which would be the natural sticker price for Gabriel. So the Falcons send over a 4th instead, and Cleveland balances the scales by attaching one of their own 5ths. The Browns jump up into round 4, around pick 114, and the 5th going out is pick 144. And if that number rings a bell, it should. 144 is the precise slot Cleveland spent on Shedeur Sanders. The pick number that produced the face of the franchise would now help escort out the quarterback who could not keep up with him. Hollywood would reject that script for being too on the nose. Would Berry pull the trigger? In a heartbeat. A 4th-rounder for your 3rd-string quarterback who has no future with you is free money. And the room does not even need Gabriel as its developmental arm anymore, because Berry already grabbed Taylon Green in the 6th for exactly that role. Watson is the untradeable veteran contract. Shedeur is the competitor. Green is the project. Gabriel is redundant from every single angle. And if the Falcons pass, then you run the Joe Flacco and Bengals playbook. Some contender loses its backup in September, the panic sets in, and a late pick suddenly appears for a quarterback Cleveland never intended to play. Both roads lead to the same destination. Gabriel's Cleveland clock is already ticking. Here comes the full Atlanta scenario, including that unbelievable pick 144 wrinkle, straight from the source.
Now, who would actually trade for Dillon Gabriel at this point? Well, remember, the Browns took him with a third-round pick. I don't think you're getting a third-round pick for Dillon Gabriel in this scenario. But our old friend, Kevin Stefanski, is over in Atlanta. He loved Dillon Gabriel. He picked Dillon Gabriel, hand-picked him out of the NFL draft. And so if anyone's going to make this deal, why wouldn't it be the Atlanta Falcons? But the Falcons, unfortunately, they don't have a fifth-round pick. That I think would be the perfect value for Dillon Gabriel. So instead, I've cooked up the Falcons giving us a fourth-round pick, which would be great for Cleveland, but they're not going to straight up give up a fourth for Dillon Gabriel. Nobody would. So Cleveland's going to have to throw in a fifth to be able to get a fourth, right?
And here is what nobody wants to say on the record. This trade has nothing to do with Dillon Gabriel. It is the Browns telling you, in plain roster language, exactly what they think of Shadur Sanders. Watch what teams do, never what they say. Podiums are for spin, transactions are for truth. If Cleveland had real doubts about Shadur Sanders, you would see hoarding behavior. Anxious franchises stockpile quarterbacks. They carry four arms, preach competition and depth in every interview, and hedge every decision. The Browns are doing the exact opposite. They are emptying the room. Gabriel gets shopped for a day 3 pick. Green develops quietly in the background. What remains is Shadur and whatever veteran safety net sits behind him. A front office only strips a quarterback room down like that when the search is over and they know it. The business ledger is shouting the identical message. Shadur shattered the all-time NFLPA group licensing record as a rookie at $17.7 million. That number is not merely impressive, it is nearly twice what Tom Brady ever pulled in his biggest licensing season. His jersey led the entire NFL in sales. Merchandise records collapsed. The new stadium project has his face all over the vision. No organization anchors its revenue future to a quarterback it is unsure about. Every one of those dollars is a confidence vote. And trust me, ownership counts votes. Now consider what this signals inside that locker room. Every man on that roster witnessed the same sequence. Gabriel started, Gabriel got hurt, Shadur seized the job, and Cleveland never glanced backward. Moving Gabriel simply formalizes what the players concluded months ago. Number 12 owns the room. No timeshare, no unresolved debate. The only competition left is Shadur against the standard, not Shadur against some other mid-round selection. And truthfully, for Gabriel himself, a trade is a gift. Staying in Cleveland makes him a walking reminder of a draft pick that went sideways. Landing in Atlanta, under the one head coach who genuinely rates him, gives him the exact career that anonymous coach described to Jeremy Fowler, a trusted number 2 for years to come. That is an honest NFL living. It just cannot happen in Cleveland. So when this trade eventually hits your phone, and I fully expect it will, do not process it as the Browns cutting bait on a miss. Process it for what it truly represents. Cleveland turned a leftover mistake into draft capital and swept the runway completely clean, so the Shadur Sanders era launched without a single distraction behind it. Here's the source wrapping a bow on the whole deal.
But would you accept this trade? Let me know in the comments section. Type A for accept, type D for decline if you'd be in on this deal. I say why not? If you can get a pick for Dillon Gabriel, if he's not in your plans at all, that's totally fine with me. If the Browns can't unload him, he'll probably just be a backup on the Browns roster on a rookie deal for a couple years. But again, I think they're going to look externally, so you won't need Dillon Gabriel if you're bringing another quarterback in. Anyway, let me know if you would make this trade.
One quarterback broke records. The other fell to the third string. Same building, same year. That is the entire story in 2 sentences. So let's stack the whole thing up. Mary Kay Cabot, the most wired-in Browns reporter on the planet, reports Dillon Gabriel is completely out of the starting mix and available for nothing more than a late-round pick. That did not fall out of the sky. It grew out of a full season of film, starting the day Shadur Sanders took Gabriel's job at halftime against Baltimore and kept it for good. 7 starts, a 364-yard, 3-touchdown eruption against Tennessee, a ceiling Gabriel cannot touch. The evaluation on Gabriel is closed. Modest arm, minimal mobility, an undersized passer missing the 2 traits that keep undersized passers employed. The league projects a long-term backup, and the lone coach who ever projected more now sits in Atlanta holding the most natural trade fit in football. The proposed swap even comes with the perfect kicker, because pick 144, the very slot that delivered Shadur, could help push out the man Shadur beat. And floating above every detail is the actual headline. Cleveland is not simply clearing out a backup. The Browns are organizing the entire franchise around Shadur Sanders. The transactions say it. The record-smashing business figures say it. The locker room settled it long ago. Gabriel walking out the door is not the news. Gabriel walking out the door is the proof. Now the floor is yours, and I want honest answers only. If you were sitting in Andrew Berry's chair, do you cash in a day 3 pick for Dillon Gabriel today, or do you stash him as cheap insurance behind Shadur for 1 more season? Type trade if you send him packing. Type keep if you hang on. Get it in the comments right now, because I read every last one, and the sharpest takes get featured in the next video. And understand this, the Gabriel situation could explode at any hour. 1 call out of Atlanta, and this jumps from rumor to breaking news before you wake up. When it happens, the complete breakdown drops here first, so be subscribed with the bell on so nothing slips past you. Do you trust the Browns to nail this decision? Smash like and subscribe.